Hi, welcome to Hicks the Married Life. My name is Victor, and this is my awesome wife.
Erlene.
And we are here sharing Hicks the Married Life, where we celebrate the married life, living life, the kingdom life, the blessed life, where we give encouragement, some tips from 20 years of marriage that we've been graced by God to live. And it is a wonderful thing to be married. It's a wonderful thing to have such an awesome wife. And we just wanted to share some of these things. We believe that God has graced us with a lot of wisdom in these areas, and so we want to share that wisdom with you. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I think a lot of people ask us about probably more than any, and it's how do we stay married, but in particular, how did God save our marriage, or can God save their marriage or help us? We get a lot of calls over the years, or cries, women reaching out to my wife, men and husbands reaching out to me. And unfortunately, many a times they call is not to say their marriage is at the peak. Their marriage is that I'm loving life, Vic, I'm loving life. Early, it's like, I'm in trouble. I don't know if we're gonna make it. I need help. We need help. Yeah. And so we want to share some tips to some transparency, some things that God helped us. We got 4 key takeaways, and let's get into it.
All right. So I would say, and today's topic is very relational today. How it's a part of our story. And so I would say the first thing, the number one thing or way that God saved our marriage personally was salvation for me. When we were married, I was not saved. My husband was. And so we were already going in 2 different directions, just in life. I grew up in a church, and so I didn't mind church attendance. That was what we did on Sundays at 11 o'clock. But I had not surrendered my life. I had not given my heart to Christ. And so from that standpoint, we were just headed for destruction. Our marriage was. And so God saved me. And so that was the first thing I would say that helped to, how God saved our marriage, because he saved me.
And I think that a surrendered life to God is the key to every marriage. Now, again, there are people who will probably tell you so many different things, so many other things, but we're telling you what we have seen work. We believe that the Word of God is the final and greatest authority. And so you may not be a believer, but let me tell you that entering a relationship with Christ is going to transform every aspect of your life. Yeah. But in terms of marriage, it's almost like you can't really do it successfully without it. Now, there are people who argue with that, and that's fine. But I know that surrender to God, getting, as someone said, the vertical that between God and each of us, even as individuals together, that is what I think really healed and began to save our marriage, and will save a marriage. Most of the marriages we come into, I'm talking about, these are people, some are leaders, some have been saved, both people saved. But when we kind of dig into some of the issues, when we do counseling, mentoring, or just really just to help people who are married, we find that we say, well, how much time are y'all spending in prayer? How many, and they almost always, there's been a breakdown somewhere between them and God. Yeah. Way before there was a breakdown between husband and wife.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, number one being surrendering your life, giving your life to God. But the second thing I would say would be that being committed to the covenant. Early in my marriage, I was not committed to the covenant. And so therefore, if it came, if it went, and I'm all right, I'm young, I'll start over. I mean, literally on the day that I got married, I was given advice, just go ahead. If it don't work out, you can get you another husband.
A lot of fish in the sea.
Yeah. I mean, and people tell you things like that. And so that was my mindset. My mindset said that, if he don't work, you have you a backup plan.
And that's, I mean, think about that. Think about, and I don't think that's very foreign to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people going to marriage is almost like they're going to Vegas. They're going into a casino. It's like,
Yeah.
shake them up, shake them up, shake them. You know, what is hitting for? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, if I hit that, 7-Eleven, then I'm good. But if I,
Right.
I crap out, then, I got another
Start
roll.
over,
I
right.
got somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people go in half-heartedly. They, I know, I don't know who actually told us this. They said, weddings now have become so expensive. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing to have a 30, 40,000, six-figure, $100,000 wedding, $100,000 wedding. That's nothing these days.
Yeah.
But somebody told me a long time ago, the wedding is cheap, marriage is expensive. And so if you're not committed to the covenant, because God told me one of the things He really showed me in those early years of our life together as husband and wife that were not necessarily easy, was that you've got to love me more than you love your wife. I actually have to love God more than I love my wife. And
Absolutely.
then I have to love my wife in the way that Christ loved the church and He gave Himself for. And so in that, I fell in love with it. I said, God, I'm not going to, I don't not cheat on my wife because I don't want her to be mad at me or find out or some,
Or me to fight somebody.
yeah, you gotta know who you
her.
with. You gotta know who you with.
I'll fight you.
But the reason I've not done that is not just because I'm afraid of her or I don't want anybody to be hurt physically. It's because it's because I love God and I love His word. And His word says, marriage is honorable, you know what I'm saying? And that you don't want to break the covenant. I don't want to break it emotionally. I don't want to break it physically. I don't want to break it in any way because I don't want to come in conflict with God. I want to please God.
Yeah.
And so commitment to the covenant that this is my wife. Divorce is not an option. Divorce is not on the table. You know what I'm
And
saying?
earlier on, we took divorce out of our vocabulary.
It used to be very heavy. The first years, it was,
yeah.
I mean, we could be arguing about who was going to cook that night or why the house wasn't clean. And you can leave, I can leave, you can leave, you know what I'm saying?
We threw it out a
You know,
lot.
this is my house. No,
But
I pay the
there
bills.
came a certain point where it was no longer an option. We in this for life. And so that was our second step. Our third step was actually learning to seek wisdom from others, people who've done it right, who got it right? There are people who have strategies. Now, I'm not going to say to model your relationship after anyone specific. I wouldn't even say, I think I have a great marriage, but I wouldn't say to model your marriage
Yeah,
after
your husband's
mine.
probably not going to be as great as I am.
This is true.
It's just, and your wife, I already know, I'm not going to say anything
Right.
about wives.
Right.
Bless God.
Anyway, but learning to seek
Investing.
invest
We,
in your marriage.
folk will,
Absolutely.
I think about the time is if you're married and you got a big wedding or whatever size wedding. Think about how much time you put into finding the right dress
Right.
and the tuxedo, the band, whatever aspect of it is. We put all this. Or think about, if you're husband and wife and you're buying your first home. Think how many houses. This woman, we bought our house, our first home. I used to think the real estate agents are not just go take her calls. They would send her 20 to 40 houses a day, on email, check this house out, check that house out. I mean, we saw so many houses. People will put that level of investment, this is an investment. I'm spending hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, however, your income allows.
Yeah.
But when it comes to investing in marriage, getting wisdom, going to conferences, seeking out people and seeking out books and spending time and putting that investment, I'm telling you.
That was something that we learned to do early on.
Early on. I mean, we didn't even know it was God to help us yet.
It has been a blessing to us. And we going to bless some other people as we prepare.
Yes, and that's why we do it. And we got a lot of things coming.
Our conference. And then our last thing, because we're going to hurry up, is being partners in new phases of life, because you change. This is not the man I married in 1998. This is a totally different man. He ain't the man he was 5 years ago, or maybe even 2 or 3. We constantly change, and we talk about how many different lives we've lived with each other. Different phases we change, we mature, we need and want new things, and not necessarily new people, but new things. And so being able to recognize and meet the need of who he is today, that's important. I'm committed to that. I'm committed to getting to know and learning who he is today.
And I think, go ahead. I'm
No,
not going.
you finish.
I would say, if you're a man and you married to a woman, you know you're not married to the same woman every day. You know this. You know that they're. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean.
What it is.
You know, and so I was 21 when we got married. I'm 42 today. We're grandparents. You know what I'm saying? We've traveled thousands of miles in ministry. We've ministered all over the country together.
Yeah.
We've gone through life together. There are issues, ups and downs with family. We've gone through loss. We've pastored for 12 years. These things are going to change you. Experiences are going to change you. You know, people coming in your life, leaving your life, but committing to we are now. It's like we know we gonna survive. We know we got the grace of God to move through life together. So it's like we like next phase. We have our youngest daughter is 18 years old. She's getting ready to head to college next year in 2019. It's like next phase. Are we empty nesters? What we gonna do? You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna be another level. It's gonna be another level of things, another level of living. And now we like, you know, and we just think about our past. And we kind of like, man, was, you know, being married, you know, and listen, we meet people that have been married 30, 40, long time, but ours is just what it is. It's 20. And so we look back and like, man, I remember being that. Man, you know, these were different, almost seems like different lives, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We think about the places we've lived, the things we've done. But these are just some 4 tips that God used to save our marriage. Number 1, everybody has to surrender to God. Really inviting God to come in and be Lord of each of you and then Lord of your house. Number 2.
Being committed to the covenant, getting rid of the word divorce or allowing that person to be disposable for you.
Come on.
Be committed
Yes.
to the covenant.
Seeking the wisdom, investing time and energy. That's actually so many resources now on media and social media that's free that God we didn't have. You know what I'm saying? We had to travel and pay for it. But listen, you got to put the time in. Amen.
Yeah. And then lastly, just recognizing that you are partners and that you're going to change. And being committed to the new phases of life would be our advice or, you know, our story on how God changed our marriage.
That's Hicks the Married Life. How God saved our marriage. 4 quick tips. Again, we could do a whole seminar, and we are going to do some great things coming up in 2019. We hope that you would like this YouTube page, that you would share it, recommend it. You know, subscribe, do all the stuff y'all supposed to be doing. You know what you're supposed to be doing. God bless y'all.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.